This video is going to look at version control, which is the ability to roll a document, a file, or a list item, or a page back to an earlier version. So, you know, there might have been a whole lot of mistakes made on a document and it's too hard to edit and create. So you could just roll back to an earlier version and start again. So we're going to go through how we can set versioning on files in document libraries, list items in lists, and also pages. So those three things, you've got version control. And then what we're going to do is go behind the scenes and see how we can control this, and then we'll combine it with another feature called check-in, check-out. So I'm already sitting on my marketing site in my main documents document library, and in this I've got two folders. So I'm just going to go into team leadership, and you can see I've got my documents here. Now, if you'd followed my metadata tag video, you'll understand this column here that I named categories in order to be able to find files easily. But go and have a look at that video if you would like to. So I'm looking at this document, so I'm going to open it up. And you can see it's just basically text, but it's just an example demonstration. So I might say, do you know what, just for a visual purpose, I might take that paragraph and, you know, make it bold, let's say, and maybe take that paragraph and change the color for whatever reason. It just makes it easier for you to see what happens. So there's the change, and I can look up the top and I can see the little tick up here, which means the document has been saved. So that's all good, and I can close it. Now, at another time, I might come in and open it again and say, oh, I just don't want all that. You know, and obviously it would be very easy in this case to change the bold to non-bold and green to black, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do it through version control. So, coming back to the document library, now there's a couple of ways that you can do version rollbacks in a document library. So you can either select the file here by clicking to the left of the file, and depending on your screen size, I actually have to expand this out to see more options by clicking on the three dots, and I can come down to version history. Another way, which is what I do, we're all different, but I like doing it this way, is I don't select the file. I come over to the ellipsis and select version history that way. But anyway, you can do it either way you like. Now, there's a number of things that are happening here. But I can see that this document has been edited a couple of times, and it's also showing me that it's been categorized, or tagged is the proper term, with metadata, and I called it correspondence. So that's all good. So if I say, oh, I can't be bothered making all those changes, I can just hover. Don't click here, because if you do, it won't work. Just hover and come to the down arrow and say, can you restore the last version before I bolded and, you know, turn things green. Now up here it's saying you're about to replace. It doesn't really, it creates a new version. So have a look. So now we've got 5. Yeah. So you can roll back, and we'll go behind the scenes and see how much more control that we have over versioning documents in a moment, but I'll just prove it to you that that actually worked. So now if I open the document, the bold and the green have gone. So I rolled back to an earlier version. Now before we look behind the scenes, I'd like to show it to you with pages. Now I had a really hilarious, well, it wasn't really hilarious for my client, but they rang me in a panic saying, oh gosh, I've changed my homepage and it's just gone all over the place, and I published it, which means everybody can see it. And I said, all you need to do is go to the pages area or the pages library and roll it back. So if I look at And she actually did it with the homepage, but if I look at our team ASPX, which is another page that I created, and go to the ellipsis and come down to version history, I could roll it back to, and I'll talk about minor in a moment, but I could take it back to an earlier version. In this case, it's minor. And finally, I have a list here. And what I could do is, now with a list, you're looking at rolling back items. You're not looking at rolling back an entire list. So I could come to this, in this case, client, go to the ellipsis, go to version history, and roll it back, and if in fact I've made many changes. So it's really just the point of getting across to you how easy it is to roll a document back, or a page or an item in a list, to an earlier version. So it just stops you from having to work too hard on making changes. So I'm going to go back to the main document library, as I've renamed it, as some of you will have seen. And I'm going to go up to the good old settings button up here, the cogwheel or settings, and come down and have a look at library settings. This is where it is. You would have seen this, and I can say more library settings, and it will take me in behind the scenes. And you'll see the second option in the first column is versioning settings. Now, I think at this stage we're sitting in August 2023. Pretty sure you can set it to keep the number of major versions at 50,000. But I've never really experienced any of my clients doing that. But anyway, it is showing that you can change the number of major versions that you want to apply to this document library. Now, the other two thing is when you make a change to a file, it may be, and I don't know if you can read this, but it basically says, do you want to leave it as a draft state until it's been approved by whoever needs to approve it, yes or no? This is default to no, but you can also create major and minor versions, and it's a similar kind of thing. So when you make a change, it will, so a major version is a whole number, and then you've got the minor versions, which is the whole number, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and again, that will set it off into some kind, like a workflow for someone to approve the document to become a major version. So that's behind the scenes. And we'll talk about checked out in a moment because it's very much linked. So I haven't changed anything here. Now, when I do this, it's because I'm the administrator on my site. So it really depends on how you've been set up as a user, whether you're an administrator or you've been given permission to come behind the scenes, such as here. So it's excellent, actually. Now, the thing that I wanted to talk about, because it very much is coupled with version control, is my point will be here. If I go into the folder again and I look at the version history of this document, see the comments area, it's blank. So I don't really know. I can see here that this version, we've categorized it or tagged it as correspondence, but I really don't know what, without me having to open them all up and see what's happened. We can add information in here really easily, and it's to do with something called check out. Now, when you check out a document, basically what it means is you're checking it out to yourself so you can edit it, make changes, and anybody else, they do have access, but they have read-only access until you check it back in. And I'm going to create a separate video on check and check out and the power of it, and what you can do when you take a document offline, and you might get on a plane and you're working with it on the plane. Obviously you're offline, and you come back in and you plug in, through the internet and sign in, and it will upload. But we'll talk about that in a separate video. But what I'm going to do here is actually check this document out. Now, let's say I just want to work with it. I've seen a lot of clients do a checkout so that they can fill in comments as to what changed in the document, so it will appear in version control list. So I'm going to check a document out. So of course one of the options I've got up here is, now it's not actually in the initial list, it's in under more checkout. Okay, so I'm going to check it out. Now when you check a document out, anybody who has access to the folder, in this case, they will be able to see this little, it's an indication, that little red arrow that the document's been checked out. And I've checked it out, but they can also hover over there to say, oh gosh, it's been checked out for so long, I need to get into it. And then they could email me, chat to me on Teams, give me a call, whatever, the communication level is, and say, are you finished with the document? Can you check it back in, please? And again, as I said, I'm going to talk about checkout in a separate video. But so I've checked the document out. Others cannot edit. Do you want to check it in or discard? Now, let's say I didn't do that. Let's just say I go to I've finished with the document, I've made my changes. And again, down here under more, I quite like this. It's intuitive to know, you want to check it in, or do you want to discard this checkout altogether? So in other words, forget any changes that you've made. But I'm going to say check it back in. And this is where the power is. So I could say, have added another section regarding policies and procedures, let's say, something like that. And then check it back in. And immediately that little red arrow disappears, which means that everybody has access, or anyone who has the ability to edit it. But what I really like here, and this was what I'm saying, some people check a document out simply to put the comment in, so that when you go to version history, it appears here. So that's a very brief look at checkout. I use it all the time personally, but also in combination with version control. So again, thank you very much for watching. Keep an eye out for other videos, and I'll see you next time.